Welcome back to part 3 of the video on how to prepare financial statements in EasyFS Financials. This is the last video of this series.
The next thing is note numbers. Like I said, note numbers also have a library area. I might cover that in another presentation. Let's see how we go for time. So here you basically add note numbers. Like for example, this one, I know for sure I'm not going to be using parent entity, so I can delete that one off. Okay. As you can see, it just renumbered everything, so the numbers aren't going to break order. Okay, so if you make a number inactive, for example, I'm not going to use key management personnel, for example, or maybe I don't need to do dividends for this entity, out it goes back. So it renumbered it, so your numbers stay consistent. So it doesn't only update the links to the note number on this statement, it will update the table of contents, it will update the Word document as well when you utilize it on the Word document. So again, consistency, correct referencing, it all sort of takes place. So for example, we have here the note numbers, and we have subgroups here. You know, here again, unused ones, right? We are not using this. I would probably just get rid of them. You don't want unnecessary numbers. All it does is just add weight to your program. If you notice the last one when I did delete it, there was another subgroup here which got deleted automatically as well. If you don't have this group, you can't have the next group. It will be this sort of linked as layers. Okay, so that's what I wanted to demonstrate. So as you can see here, these are all true, and I've gone A, B, C, D. Okay, for the policies. But suppose, what if you didn't need a separate basis of preparation, and that's just taken out? So then that becomes 1. And all of this changes to 1 as well. So as you can see, it's pretty good in that way, that it always maintains the information accurately. Now you know we linked it to a revenue note. So what if I were to take away the revenue note? Okay, and then let's just go back to the statement, and when it does its recalculate before doing it, there's no revenue number here because note doesn't exist. Alright, so as you can see, but it still maintains the link to show that it is still linked to that. Okay, so if I were to bring that note number back, it will link, right? So other than if I actually deleted that note number out, then it will basically not have a link to this number, but it doesn't exist. So if I bring it back, it will bring it back again. Alright, so got a numbering. Okay, so the referencing, you can actually maintain tight control of your referencing. And what I've noticed is that I can actually give more references on a statement because it's easy to manage. I think that does cause a bit of headache if not for the software. You know, I've seen people struggle with that, and final financials get out with a few references that actually don't reference correctly, which is quite embarrassing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and create the row formats. Now this is where we're looking at the creation of row format. So this is actually the creation of a row. So this is where we create the rows, and then this is where we would go to create a particular cell. Now a cell can have quite a bit of formatting. I don't normally utilize all the formatting. You can set a particular font size per cell. I never said that. I normally use a consistent formatting per table, or font size per table. But if you really are pressed and you need to use a particular format size for that, you could do that, right? But not needed generally. Here you can specify whether it's going to be bold, or yeah, you can specify whether it's going to be bold. You can specify a color for the font as well. Again, I don't use it too much. Okay, so by looking at this, the font setting, then you can set alignment. Number alignment is where it's a number you want it to select this. You must select this for a number. If you don't select this, it will right or left align, and it doesn't line up exactly. If you're having few numbers in a column, and it will not align because you have not used a number format. Alright, so you must make sure you use a number format if it is a number column. Alright, yeah, other than that, yeah, so that's the alignment. You can also vertically or bottom align. Normally numbers are always bottom align, so because if there are text that runs onto two lines, you want the number to be at the bottom. You don't want it centered, it looks odd. You don't want it at the top, it looks odd again. You want it at the bottom. Okay, so then again, set the formatting, see how it looks, decide for yourself. Alright, this is just a simple representation of what it's sort of looking like, but it's not an accurate representation. Don't be misled by this. It's just there to just show you what it's somewhat like going to, or somewhat what it's going to look like. It's not an accurate representation. Okay. Likewise, you have tabs. Here's where you set the tabs, the leading tab and the following tab. That's a hanging over tab. So the main indent is actually the first line, and the hanging over tab is subsequent lines under them. That also will be indented, normally indented by the same amount. Okay. It does look better if you just indent them all evenly. Alright, so I don't use indenting too much. I do use this one a lot. Thus I like to indent the groups so that you can see it slightly. I mean, even can go even up to just 0.1. You don't want to indent too deep because you run out of space on the page. So consider that when you're setting the indents. You don't want the indents to be too big, too far apart. It does look odd if you put it too far apart. So consider that. Then you have line settings. Yeah, here is where you set, okay, what does the top line look like, what does the bottom line look like. So I put a double line at the top, double line at the bottom, and I've given it a color here. Colors, yes, like I explained, you can set colors for the font. You can also set colors for the lines, and you can also set a color for the cell itself. So now here I've set some cell colors. You can get the color palette up from here, and there is quite a few colors. And as I said, sometimes setting the colors and the formatting on through this system is far more easier and can be far more accurate than trying to set it in the Word document. Word does not allow you good control over your colors as much as this software does. Alright, so this, yeah, you can have quite a few colors. I mean, it's a very powerful tool for colors, but I personally don't use colors, but it's there if and you get the same color range in all of those three which I just highlighted. So that's basically how you go about creating or setting colors. Okay, so I'll just close that down, and once you created those cells, you can see a rough representation of what the cell looks like. It's indented, if you set a font size, stuff like that, and then you just add them to a row. Okay, so you can just add a row. Now let me just create one, a silly one, for example, so that you can have a look at it. Say if I want to say I just need to add a new line, so I got a new row here. I'm going to call that amount test. Okay, say amount test. So that's just a test amount. Okay, the style, I'm going to put that right at the top just for this particular one. And let's just create a really silly number format here. So cell formats, I'm going to add a new cell as well, new. I'm going to just one, maybe I'll call this amount test again, one, test one, maybe 81. I'm going to give this a different cell format. I'm going to call this say 50. So this is the range from which you can access between 7 and 14. So I'm just going to make it 12, which is more than what I'm using at the moment on that one. I'm going to make it bold. I'm going to give it a color. I'm going to make it, oh, this color looks nice. Okay, right, so that's the font color. Alignment, it's a numbers. I'm going to use it for numbers, so I'll use it numbers at the bottom. And What about here? Tabs. Nah, I'm not going to use any tabs for this cell. I don't need nothing hanging there, so I don't need any tabs. Lines. Maybe not. Maybe I won't use a line. Maybe I'll just use a bottom line. Okay, just use a single line for the bottom. And maybe I will give the line a color. I'll make that blue as well. Okay, then I'm going to go really wild here. Let's do a cell color. Maybe this acrylic color. Maybe no, maybe we make it gray. Nah, that doesn't look too good. Let me see here another color. Sorry, I missed colors. Maybe a baby blue. There we go. Oh, can't see it. That color. Yeah, okay. It's not a real thing. I wouldn't use that. Okay, so now that's right at the top here. So one way you can actually set it is similar to you can select it here and you can just double click the columns that you want that to be on. So it's only those three. I'm just using this as a demo. I mean, you can put it for all. I normally put it for all so that I can use it on other statements even if there's more columns, so it doesn't have a problem. Maybe I'll just use the number, but I think the column which I'm going to try and just experiment this on has a number, so we'll use a number format. Number one, so that's a number cell here. Somewhere here is a number cell. There you go. And I'm going to use this as text. Yep. Right, so I've just set a format here, so I'm going to go back. And I'm going to use it here. I think I called that AT, isn't it? AT, there we go. There we go. So I got it. Okay, now let's have a look at what this looks like. It's going to be interesting. Okay, done. There you go. Bigger font. Very colorful. Alright, yeah, a bit silly. But look, I'll leave that up to you. Alright, so what we finished numbers, we finished row formatting, group names. Okay, so what you can do is one thing I did mention is, so as you click on a linked item, it'll tell you where it's linked. So now this is linked to consolidated figures group 1. It's coming from the trial balance consolidated figures group 1. It's linked to RV code, which is revenue, and you've taken the account description. Alright, so it gives you a fair description of where it's come from. Like this one, it's consolidated trial balance, consolidated group 1, expenses, and prior year. Okay, so like this will be current year expenses, current year, prior year 1. Okay, so you can see that. Likewise, you like a link here, it's a dynamic title, and I used the item 23 on that dynamic title. So if you go to the 23rd item, that's it. Click here, it'll say it's a total, T for total, and that's what it is. Incidentally, if you just hover here, it'll tell you the abbreviation of the first thing what it is. So it's an input with word field, trial balance, dynamic title, number, total, or percentage. So it'll show you that. Likewise, percentage, it'll tell you what's happening here, and that's divided by 100. Okay, so yeah, so that gives you the information there. So let me see now. I'm going to do the revenue, and I know it's RV. So that's the first item. I don't need to even search it. If I had to search it, I would have just typed RV and it'll get me all the RVs. I know it's from group 1, so if I clicked on group 1, that's the RV on group 1. Okay, so that's how you get to it. If it was one of the items which are like hidden somewhere far down. But now if I want to say this was actually revenue from say sales, for example, this doesn't make sense here because I have breakdown of revenue from sales at group 2, but just for demonstration purposes. So I've said that, right? So that's what I want it to be. I click out of it, say close, and I just get it to update, and it's revenue from sales. It doesn't only change it here. If I've used this on any other statements, it'll change it consistently right throughout. Okay, so again, a powerful feature which enables you to utilize this on the statement and quickly update wherever it has been used. So I think I've covered everything here. there is the ability to export the statement and see the links. Now, for example, if I say export statement, this gets it onto a Word document, onto an Excel sheet. No formatting, it just gets you the figures. So for example, if I wanted to just double check this total, it's not adding actually, so it's so I could just maybe just punch in the figure, so plus that minus that, and just check. Oh yeah, so it is correct. Okay, good. Delete. So now it's just for you to have a view of it and see how it is. It brings everything, even the hidden columns are here. So why the hidden columns appearing here is you might have some calculations which are hidden for actual presentation purposes on Word, but you might want to see it here, so it just brings an entire snapshot of it here. So that's it. You also have the export links. Okay, so this is where it actually just brings you the link. It also tells what the results were, so it's linked to a word field for the current year, and that was the result. This is the word field links. This is linked to the trial balance, consolidated, group 1, expense group, current year. That was the figure. So this is useful if you need to prove to somebody that how a figure has come up, where you can export the grouping, so you can understand how everything has been grouped, and then you can say, look, each of these figures to the statement are created from here. You look at, if you follow this in the groups which I've sent you, you will see the figure there, and that's where I've taken it, and those are the accounts which will be grouped into it. So you have a very detailed track of where everything has come from on that statement, and can be easily proven to the to another user. Generally, if you need to prove it to an auditor, I think that would be handy. So yeah, so it is, and it helps you also to understand if you need to interpret it in any way. Now you can see here, so, oh, someone's going to input that, so somebody has overwritten it. I mean, that's easy to actually identify on the statement, but it changes its color to an input color, as you can see here. You can just minimize that. As you can notice here, it's changed to green, so you can spot it more easily here to see that it's been overwritten, and someone's entered in a figure. Okay, so that's this feature. So the only other feature was the library feature. I'll see if I can cover that here, so then that sort of takes care of what we're looking at. So what does the library feature do? Suppose you created a statement. Say I created this statement and I really like it and I want to use it on other financial statements that I prepare. Now you could open your other financial statements and prepare it from scratch, prepare the statement like how I did, or alternatively you can come to the library here. Now when you come to the library, you can see that these are the statements in your library. These are the statements on your these are the individual statements which are in your particular statement, financial statements that you're working on. Okay, so this is your active statements. So these are all in your active. This is what is in your library. This library is specific to each individual. So you do have a library file which gets installed, and whatever you add to your library is with you. Alright, so just remember that if you need to send a statement to somebody else, what you do is you add it to a statement and then send them that statement, and they can open it and then add it to their library. So that's how you would pass around your templates if you wanted to pass it to other colleagues in your organization, so that they have the template, so one person prepares it, everybody uses it, sort of a scenario. So yeah, so for example, I just created this. You can see that's not here. So if I wanted to add it, I'll just say add it, and it'll bring it here. It sometimes brings it towards the bottom. You might need to come and set the order as to where you want it to appear. So I'll just add it here. It's been added, and yep, as thought, it's not at the top. So it's added it to somewhere in the bottom. Let me just find it. What did I call it? I called it demo, didn't I? Yeah, there it is. It's gone to number 45. So I'm going to just bring it to the top. 0001. Okay, now I'm going to just get rid of this filter. I'll just put it at the top. Yes, just be mindful of that, and it does tend to add it towards the bottom end. How many steps? Yeah, it's added it right to the bottom. Okay, so 45 it was. This has 45 statements in the library. Now anybody can use this, right? So what does it actually do? By pressing this button, what does it actually do? It does an enormous amount of processing to try and get the statement in to a library. It makes a note of all the groups, it makes note of all the referencing, it makes note of all the what else, the cell formats, it makes note of a hell of a lot of things, right? And it copies it all over to here. Alright, so suppose you were to introduce this and add this to a new statement, say that had absolutely nothing. It'll set up the cell formats, it'll set up the row formats, it'll set up the groups needed to produce that, it'll create the links, it'll create the statement, it does all these creations for you, right? And so that the statement will work in that a blank statement which you created it, right? It's very useful. You get the whole thing in there. The only thing which you need to probably be mindful of is that it creates the lower level, the higher levels as well. And if you have, for example, higher levels where the names of them or the codes have changed, it will create new ones. Okay, so you might need to revisit your groups and see whether the subsequent or the higher level groups are consistent. All right, if they are not, you just need to set them to be consistent and get rid of the ones you don't need in the groups. If it has sort of duplicated it and given it a new name, or it'll bring it with the name which is in here. So if it is a name where you've actually gone and you've changed it for your statement, so you might need to just link it to that and get rid of the one it just brought over if that's not yours. That's not the naming convention you're using in your statements, right? So that's just something to just be mindful of. Not a huge issue, but it's a huge benefit, right? So I'm going to just delete this one. We are not going to utilize it again, but I'll just show you how you use one of these. Now, I always create a blank note. That's because it saves time. You don't need to do the column size, the numbers, and all this sort of stuff. So I'm going to just bring this blank format into my active statement here. So I'm going to add it. So that is there, right? It's coming up. It came up as blank. I can do what I want. Maybe I call that, say, demo 1. Okay. I can't keep demo and I can't put numbers in there, so demo A. Okay, you can't use numbers in this one. That's primarily due to a word restriction. Word doesn't allow you to use numbers when you're referencing. How does word reference? Let me just jog my mind back. Bookmarks. With bookmarks. No, it's not a bookmark, it is, yeah, I think it is a bookmark. Okay, in Word it doesn't allow you to do that because we use bookmarks through this system. It sort of uses the bookmark so that it knows where the table has been placed. Alright, so that's purely a word restriction. It doesn't allow you to do that. Okay, so anything that's highlighted here when you're working with in blue indicates that has some sort of a link towards the Word document. Okay, so it does have a link. Similar with the numbers, it has a link, and so, and even I think WordPress, they have a link with the Word documents. Okay, table automatically are linked to this particular link here. All right, so now I'm going to go back here. I've just brought in a new statement. I'll also demonstrate that control total thing. Okay, so I'm going to just get this note number. So that's the one I've done. Okay, so as you can see, I've set it up and I've set up the control check here. I've set up the formatting. I've done what I needed to do. That's the header. So let me just see. Maybe it's going to do this. It's going to create maybe something here. Let me see. What should I say if I'm going to do a revenue item and I'm going to do, say, the revenue from sales. Select that one. Alright, so there's 5 groups that I need to put here. 5, yeah. Alright, so I'm going to just add them here. So as you can see, it's sort of brought in the 2018 and 17, which I changed as well. So it's going to bring this in here. Current years. Even though it's 0, you still put it into your template, because somewhere down the track you might decide to use that group. I mean, if it's a group that you are never ever going to use, then just delete the group. Don't keep it there. There's no point. You just confuse somebody else who uses the software that that group may be needed, for example, you know, when it's never used. There is a function to get rid of unused groups as well, where you click the one button and it gets rid of all of it. The other thing I want to do is upper level here. So here I need to check it to the higher level. So what I'm doing is I'm going to just create this one. So this is the, so I should come back. Yeah, so that is the total, the sales total, right? So 67, and I'm going to utilize the upper level here. So the upper level is that, and I'm going to need that figure, and I'm going to need that figure. Alright, so let me just calculate this one. As you can see, it's got the total here, and this is doing this will be the total that will appear. This is a control check, so basically it's checking these two figures, and if they balance, then you're fine. There's no issue with the total. Let me just demonstrate. But then this is unfortunately selected revenue, which is negative, so I'm just going to make them change the signs. I'm going to change the sign here as well. Suppose I didn't change the sign. Okay, now calculate. Okay, you can see we have an error here, right? Now if I were to run my statement, there is an error. So this highlights you quickly, oh, we're going to revisit this, there's something wrong. The total actually is correct here. It's just that that statement's not set up correctly. Okay, so in this particular instance, but in other instances, if you have missed one of these lines, for example, it highlights you that it doesn't actually reconcile back to that total, you know, and that's an important check. You know how when you used to in the good old days prepare your financials on Excel, or I think a lot of people still do prepare it on Excel, you would always try and check it back to the balance sheet to see that the note reconciles back to a balance sheet. This is doing the same process, it's just that it's not checking it back to a balance sheet. And that leads me on to actually explaining a very important item, and that each of these statements are independent of other statements. Now, initially you might think, oh, it doesn't actually link, but well, it does link with the totals, right? But the huge benefit is that when you are working on one of these statements, you do not have to worry of any other statement, because you are not going to mess up any other statement. And that is, I think, the biggest issue in using Excel, is that you are so concerned that, oh, if I change this figure, where else is it linking to? What else can I mess up? And quite often you do mess up. I mean, have you ever tried to get rid of a rounding error in an Excel spreadsheet? It's a nightmare, because you change it in one place, you have absolutely no clue where or if it has impacted in any other area, and that's just terrible, especially if you're caught for time, which is generally the case with annual financial statements. The board of directors are waiting to sign off. You don't have time to muck around, you know, and be unsure whether it has impacted somewhere else, and that causes a lot of anxiety, especially for last minute changes, which tends to be the case. You know, the board looks at it, they'll convene a meeting, and the finance committee will look at it and say, oh, I need you to pass these journals, I need you to make these adjustments, and then they will think that, oh, I want you to add this new note, I want you to add this here, put this there, and it's very difficult to do it without a proper package to manage it, and that causes hours of overtime by the accountant trying to figure out, and gain confidence that the statement has not broken itself. If you're using Excel, and while Excel is a great tool, I'm an accountant myself, so Excel's a fabulous tool, but not probably the best when it comes to annual financial reporting, because it has issues when it comes to formatting it, and also issues when you try to have a lot of text description. If you have looked at an annual financial statements recently, you'd notice that there's sometimes more text descriptions than the tables themselves. There's a lot of description with all those policies, and each note having some sort of a write-up on what's happening and how it's been impacted, which is great. It's fantastic disclosure. I always encourage better disclosure, but it's a nightmare if you don't have a software to actually manage it, and that's why this particular software has sort of evolved, I guess, from those sort of nightmares where you don't have time to deal with it. Okay, so that is, I think, a fundamental important item that I must mention, that each statement works independently. You do not have to worry about breaking another statement when you're working on one statement. They don't break each other. Alright, while they are linked to the groups and classifications, they are not linked directly. You can't link them directly. The program was specifically designed not to allow you to link between statements, primarily for that reason. It just unnecessarily complicates it, and that's exactly what the Excel spreadsheet does. While it is a great package, sorry, I should probably explain that a little bit, what I mean by that. The problem with Excel is that you can't create too many groups. It's hard to manage. Like you see in here, there's a lot of filtering capabilities where I can filter down, drill down to different lower levels, making it very easy to break up and sort of classify your groups, right? In Excel, if you have like 200 groups, trying to put your accounts into 200 groups becomes unmanageable. It becomes too difficult, and that's why people start linking from group to group and sort of breaking things down like that way, instead of actually creating a specific group. The other issue with Excel is that since people do tend to do this linking and cross-linking, it gets too complicated. They can't really show anybody how they got those figures without somebody drilling down to each cell to look at the formula. And everybody uses their own sort of complicated formula, especially when it comes to grouping, and it just becomes a bit difficult, I guess, to manage. And I think it becomes even difficult if you inherit the spreadsheet from somebody else, where you have no idea what the person has done and what the logic they've prepared it under. It's always good to have some sort of a software that has a consistent approach to it, and everybody uses the same approach. And I think having the final output on Word was primarily designed was as a consideration to the formatting issues on Excel. This could have easily been exported out to Excel, as I demonstrated, and formatted also in Excel, but it's not the best package. It's not the package to prepare annual financial statements that require a lot of descriptive text explaining the statements and policies, and even putting in the director's report and stuff like that way. Requires a good word processing package, and Word seems to be, I think, in my view, one of the better packages for word processing out there and used by a lot of people. So that is the statement library, and how you bring out stuff. Likewise, you can have under the note numbers also, you can save. I have a one master number, which is the number which we used. You can bring that number in. Now if you use a library number, just know that when you do apply a library number, it deletes the numbering which you have and it brings in the numbering from the library where the numbers are linked to the statement. If the numbers exactly match, and I think it also looks at the description to see that the description also matches with the number, not the number necessarily, that the description matches. If the description matches, it'll link it to the I think it's the description and the number. It must be the description and the number from where I can remember. If they do match, it'll link it back to where it's been linked. If not, it'll mark it as being not linked, so that you'll know that it's not linked and that you need to relink it. But if it is identical, it'll still retain the link. So yes, that's it, I think, from a numbering perspective. So if you needed to save a particular numbering set that you've created, so for example this number set which I've created in this particular statement, where I've deleted some note numbers and stuff, and I say, okay, that's going to be my final numbering. I want to use it on all my other statements as a start point. You can give it a name here, just name it here, and you just add it to the library, and this is what's in the library. Okay, so this is what's in the library. So if you want to use what's in the library, you can just click that. It'll delete your note numbers which you're currently having and bring in your note numbering. What I would say is bring in the note numbering that you want at the start, then add your statements which you want. If you're using the existing template which has all the tables in it, then you just go, you delete the tables you don't need, delete the numbers you don't need, and off you go. Alright, so that's how you utilize this. So I think that sort of explains everything. Likewise, you can export the note numbering and see what you have and stuff like that on an Excel sheet. So I think I covered what I wanted to cover on this one. Hopefully I've not missed anything. Let's have a quick look at my cheat sheet. Collection percentages, merge cells. Yes, I missed that one. Okay, so for example, if you needed to merge two cells, and I'm just going to merge this, merge two cells here. So I'm going to just, let me just get to that other demo one. No, sorry, this demo is not too bad. Okay, so I'm just going to add a line here, and suppose, let me see, how can I do this? Which ones should I merge? I'll just show you one first which is being merged so that you can understand it. So and I can refresh my mind as to how it's actually merged as well. So what is this one? Equity. So this is how you can filter it as well. So I'm saying equity, so it'll just show me statements that have that in. So I'm going to use a horizontal format. Alright, so as you can see, there's some merged cells. So I merged all these cells together and I called it share capital. So if I run the final statement, okay, so when you run the final statements, you can see here that it's merged those cells. Okay, so if I just highlight it here, you can see that these are merged cells. Alright, so that's how it is prepared. Okay, it uses the word less than, and then you write merge. It's mentioned here as well, where you can merge. You can also use a tab if you want. I've actually never used this feature, but it's there. It's just, it was one of the initial features that was included before the cell tabbing was introduced into this one, but this feature was still left in the system if you needed to. It can be useful sometimes where you have like a number you want to put, but then most of this numbering takes place on the Word document which you can actually create. So it's never actually used. I've never really used it from my recollection. So yeah, so I think that's it from preparing a statement. I know this has been a long, rather than unexpected video. I was hoping to cover this maybe in 2 parts, but I think having it all together in one sort of gives you one complete snapshot of what this is all about. I hope this video has not been too long, and I hope you enjoyed it and you've learned something from it. And in the next video I'll probably be looking at running through the final creation of these things, or putting them onto Word documents, and just demonstrating how that process all works, and explaining that the features there and how you go about maybe splitting tables and stuff like that way on the Word document. Alright, so that's it for me for now, and hope you enjoyed this video.